Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode. We're going to be working on Unit 6, Lessons 3 and 4. Our topic of the day is inventors. So, think about the importance of inventors in our lives and let's jump to our learning objectives for the unit. We're going to ask and answer questions about problems and inventions. And then we're going to listen to a speaker emphasizing points about a science competition, and we will practice emphasizing itself. And then we will carry out an internet search about inventions. We will read about the invention of ships and sails, and then we will use critical thinking skills to discuss Egyptian inventors. Now let's get started. I want to ask you guys, what problems do you sometimes have at home, at school, or with the environment? Think about the problems that you face. Maybe sometimes you struggle with writing your homework. Maybe sometimes you want to do it faster. You don't want to use a pen and a paper. Maybe sometimes you think of something that might help make your job easier at work or at school. So think of the problems you face and let's see if we have inventions for them. Now, I'd like you to read the poster below. What would you like to invent in order to help with these problems? School science competition. Are you a young inventor? Perhaps you've got a fantastic idea for a new product or something that will help the world in some way. Why don't you enter our school science competition? Now, I'd like you to listen to the audio about some students talking to a science teacher about the competition. And then ask yourself, what is the prize for the competition? Get ready to write your answers in your notebook.
So let's talk about the science competition. You must remember how important it is for you to enter. You'll learn so much about scientific research. I've got a lot of ideas for some inventions already. That's very good. But don't forget that the idea is the easiest part of the project. Once you've got an idea, you have to think about the design. Then you have to do several experiments and test them to see if they work. What kind of ideas are you looking for in the competition? It is necessary for it to be something different. Do some research and find out if your idea is completely new. It is difficult to think of something to invent. It can be difficult at first, I agree. It might be easier to think of a problem that you want to solve first. It is important to remember to work on something that you are already interested in. And don't forget that there is a prize. The winner will visit the Science Museum, where they will present their design to people who work there.
So, guys, what is the prize for the competition? Let's remember the last part in the audio. The winners will visit the Science Museum where they will present their design to people who work there. So, if somebody wins the competition, their prize will be to visit the Science Museum and present their design to the people who work there. So, the winners of the competition are going to receive a prize of visiting the Science Museum where they will present their design to the people who work there. Now, let's move on to exercise 3. If you need to listen to the audio one more time, you can rewind and listen one more time before we complete the exercise. Now, all students should or won't enter the competition. Of course, the answer is already done for us. It is should. They are expected to enter the competition. Number 2, the idea for an invention is the easiest, most difficult part of the project. Is it the easiest or the most difficult? What do you think? To think of an idea for an invention, is that easier or more difficult? Okay, it is easiest. Now let's jump to number 3. The students must do one experiment or several experiments. What do you think? They must complete several experiments so that they choose the best invention. Now let's jump to number 4. It is necessary or important for an experiment to test that an idea is old or completely new. So should we test an experiment to see if the idea is old or completely new? We have to check that it's completely new. That is very important for an invention. Number 5, it might be easier to think of something to invent or to think of a problem to solve first of all. Which is easier, guys? To think of an invention right away, or something to invent, or to think of a problem that needs solving that might need a new invention? Of course, if you think of a problem to solve, it will be easier to think of an invention afterwards. Number 6, the winners will visit the science museum or the winners will receive a laptop. Of course, you all know that the winners will visit the science museum. Great job, guys. Let's jump to exercise 4. Now we're going to take turns to give advice to students who are entering a story writing competition. We will use the expressions in the functions box and think about the following: the main idea of the story, the place of the story, describing characters, the number of sentences, the grammar, and the spelling. Do not forget to use the adjectives to make your characters interesting. So I just want to remind you that imagine that you will enter a story writing competition. You must think of the main idea, the place of the story, which is the setting, the description of the characters, the number of sentences you will use, grammar, you must revise your grammar and revise your spelling. Now, the functions box includes emphasizing a point. So you must remember to infinitive, you must remember to describe the characters well, you must remember that sentence, you must remember the grammar rules are important. Don't forget the to plus infinitive, don't forget that sentence. It is necessary or important to plus infinitive. Now, make sure you create a creative story with a main idea, place, character description, and think of the number of sentences, and then remember to revise your grammar and spelling. Now, I'd love for you guys to do an internet search to find out when the following were invented: the radio, the car, and the camera. And then write down who were the inventors and at which year they invented those 3 products that we love and use until today. Now we're going to jump to our new lesson for Unit 6, which is Lesson 4, the invention of ships and sails. Now we're going to find these words in the pictures below: the sail, the oars, and the steamship. In ancient Egypt, like today, most of our important cities were built along the Nile. For this reason, people have used the river for transport for many years. The people also became experts at building boats. If you look at the picture below, early boats, in around 4000 BCE, the ancient Egyptians made small boats from papyrus. They used oars to move them forward. If you look at the picture, you will notice that there are 2 long wooden sticks. Those are called oars. They were used to move the ship or to move the boat, specifically the boat. Let's jump to wooden boats and sails. Later on, they used wood tied together with ropes to build boats. They also invented the first sail in order to move faster up the river when the wind blew. So the sail is actually the top part of the boat that is made of wood and some kind of material that moves in the wind to help move the boat faster. Now let's jump to the title, the subtitle, Transport Ships. In around 2500 BCE, people began to build larger and stronger boats. Ships could travel across the sea to sell goods in other countries. Now let's look at the picture at the bottom here on the bottom right hand side, steam and oil. Ships needed the wind until the early 1800s. when the first steamships began to cross the seas. In the 20th century, oil was used to take powerful ships around the world. So our new words for the day are sail, oars, and steamships. Oars were used to move the boats. They were wooden sticks that were used to move the boats. And the sail is the white part that you can see in the picture, along with some wooden parts. It was used to move the boat by the wind. And of course, the steamships were ships that were used in the 1800s. Now, let's emphasize the sail is the header left and bottom pictures, and the oars are on the left and bottom pictures. The steamship is the center right picture. Now, let's move on to our exercise. Complete the sentences. Egyptians have always used the Nile to transport goods. They were able to move their papyrus boats by using oars. So they used oars to move the papyrus boats. Now, they invented the sail in order to, why did they invent the sail? In order to move faster up the river when the wind blew. So the sail helped them move faster by wind. In the 20th century, powerful ships were able to travel around the world using oil. Great job, guys. I'm proud of you. Now we're going to jump to our critical thinking section. What other inventions are Egyptians famous for? Do you know what other inventions Egyptians have done? Let's see together. They have created the papyrus paper, the calendar, the toothpaste, the plow, and sails. If you're not sure about these pieces of information, you can look them up. You can look them up through an internet search and learn more about who invented each one. Which Egyptian inventions do you think have been most important for the world and why? You tell me. Which Egyptian inventions do you think have been most important for the world and why? In my opinion, I think the papyrus paper was important because people were not able to write on something except on rocks and on mountaintops sometimes, or even inside caves. So the papyrus paper allowed them to write on something that can be transported from one place to the other. Of course, I believe that toothpaste is really important as well for personal hygiene. What do you guys think? Do you think sails were important as well? In the past, sails were used to allow ships to move faster, and ships and boats always carried products and things that were being sold, so things that people needed. So sails are also important for fast transportation. Now, let's wrap up our lesson for today. We have asked and answered questions about problems and inventions. We have listened to a speaker emphasizing points about a science competition. We have practiced emphasizing a point ourselves. We carried out an internet search about inventions. We read about the invention of ships and sails. We have used critical thinking skills to discuss Egyptian inventions. I advise you guys to please search other Egyptian inventions, and I would love for you to comment under the video with all your research information. Have a wonderful day. This is Musara Basyuni. Goodbye.